Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I want to talk today about meat. I know that may not sound like a really important topic for you to hear about. It's not, sensational, but it is actually really important from two perspectives. Number one, there is a global effort. That's right, a global effort to make it illegal for you to grow, to raise your own meat, produce your own meat, and they're wanting to make it illegal for you to eat meat. That's right. And we want to talk about that, but we also want to talk about how easy it is for you to raise your own meat. It's a goal that you should have in your preparedness plan, in your homestead plan, along with raising your vegetables. You need to be producing your own meat proteins. It's not that difficult. So I want to get into that here in just a little bit. I also want to shout out to a company called Viper VPN. It's a VPN service that we use here on the homestead. VPN is a virtual personal network, and what that means is it masks your online activity. It bounces your internet address all over the country on different servers so that it makes it difficult for hackers, people trying to steal your information, get into your bank accounts, your computer, but also governments from tracking your information. It's a very cheap and easy to use service that you can use on multiple devices, one account. You can use on all the devices at your home, and it's a service that we use called Viper VPN. You can go with hidewithtravis.com. That's hidewithtravis.com to learn more about it. And it's one of the top rated services in the country. All right, now on to the meat. Are you well aware of the fact that they're trying to, take away your freedom to raise your own food for meat and to eat it? In fact, and it's been in the news quite a bit lately, do you know that the the all-important and all-knowledgeable Bill Gates has recently said that all wealthy countries should just switch to eating synthetic, lab-grown, genetically modified meat. Well, he said plant-based, but that's what it is. That's what we're talking about, is this genetically modified, lab-grown meat. This is nothing natural whatsoever. And this is what they're pushing on us. In fact, the two biggest companies right now in America that are working on this is Impossible Meat and Beyond Meat. Both were started by investments from Bill Gates himself. And these companies have been working on deals with major food companies like McDonald's, KFC, Taco Bell, to create alternatives to the meat that they use in their products. Now, before you start saying, we eat veggie burgers sometimes. I've had veggie burgers at, stores and stuff, restaurants. This isn't a veggie burger, okay? Veggie burgers are beans or rice or certain other types of vegetables that's been kind of mushed up and added some seasoning and smashed down into a little patty, and you put it on a burger bun, and you're eating a veggie burger. This is different. This stuff tastes like meat, it looks like meat, it smells like meat, it cooks like meat, and it bleeds like meat. And there's even been a lot of controversy over the FDA approval of this stuff because it's not natural. And while they can say that they're putting all these additives in it of vitamins and minerals and nutrition that they're adding to it, no one can definitively tell you whether or not it's actually healthy or safe for you to eat this abomination of this lab-grown, genetically altered, whatever it is, because it's not food. This is what they want you to eat. As you all probably aware of, that if they can control what we eat, they can control us, because no matter how rebellious you want to be, no matter how much you want to fight against the system, you're only going to be able to do it for so long until you start getting really, really hungry, which is why there's hardly a greater act of rebellion towards the oligarchy than to just growing and raising your own food. It's really simple. And I know that it seems cool to put on your cool tactical gear and to train to fight powers and to go out in marches and to stand up at rallies and to wave your black scary, war rifle. But really, one of the greatest ways that you can rebel against the system is just growing your own food and raising your own food. And so we want to talk about meat because I think a lot of homesteaders and preppers are a little scared to start off with meat because it's a life. And if you mess up and it dies, it's a little bit harder on us emotionally than just if a lettuce plant dies and doesn't make it. And so, I don't want you to think that it's just so easy that you can just go out and start buying animals without any knowledge, because I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that people do. I see all the time and online of people that have purchased chickens or whatever animals they've purchased, and they have no knowledge whatsoever. Just simple things that most every owner should know about their animal, they don't know because they've not done any research. So the number one thing is to get out there and learn. Okay, there's lots and lots of books on raising chickens and ducks and turkeys and sheep and goats and cows. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have a veterinarian level of expertise or some, farmer that's been doing it for generations, but you do need to know a little bit about your animals. And so before you get started, certainly learn about them. And it's not that difficult to do. There's lots and lots of resources online and in paperback. But I also want to tell you that it's a lot easier than you think, especially if you do it right and you get the right kind of animals and you really think about your setup. For instance, you can't see them too well because they're way out there in the field, but the sheep that we have, we put a lot of thought into them. We didn't just go out and purchase the first ones we came across. I wanted animals that would be easy to handle because we're a small farm and there's just a few of us. Now, if we lived where there was a lot of, community around us, a lot of friends, and maybe and hopefully we will get to that point where everyone can kind of help each other out. I wanted to be able to do it on my own if that was all I had to do. And if you're raising cows for meat, which there's nothing wrong with that, there's a lot of benefits to raising cows for meat or having a milk cow and butchering its offspring. And I've done that in the past. The downside is that you're producing a really large animal. And by producing a really large animal, it means it's a little bit more difficult when it comes to the processing of that large animal, especially if you're doing it by yourself, or if at least you're doing part of the processing by yourself. On the small end, and with a small animal, you might get away with only a 500-pound animal to butcher, but a lot of times it's closer to 1,000 pounds or even more. And when you're getting into that kind of weight, you're talking about a lot more difficulty, more equipment that you need to purchase because, one person can't lift a 1,000-pound animal. And on the other side is that even no matter how gentle your cows are, and my cows in the past have been just like big babies, they're still a very large animal. And if they just accidentally step on you or bump into you or something, they can greatly injure you just because of their size. And heaven forbid you get one that's a little mean. Whereas with these guys, because they're a small breed sheep, they're called Shetlands. The males at the most top out at around 160 pounds. And the females are between 60 and 90 on the very heavy side. So you're talking about an animal that's much easier to handle. Even if it's a little ornery, it's not something that's so big that it's just going to run you over and stomp you in the ground. And when it comes to butchering, one person can handle that size a lot easier. So I can actually completely process these animals all on my own without really a lot of extra equipment. And of course, you're ending up with a lot less meat. So that's the downside. Well, the positive side to that is that these animals, these sheep, typically produce 2 and 3 offspring each time they produce. So you're getting several, and they don't eat nearly as much, and they're very easy to take care of. This particular breed is called a primitive breed, not just heritage, but they're primitive, and they're very rugged sheep, and they're very, disease resistant, and they need very little assistance in lambing and things like that. So make sure you put a lot of thought behind the animals that you get. We have the chickens that we have. We put a lot of thought behind that. The ducks that we have, the turkeys, things like that. But in the end, it's not as difficult as you think to produce a good amount of meat for your family. That is a goal here on our property. One of our main goals is to get to where we are completely meat independent. We hardly ever buy meat that's not produced on this property. It's just something that we really try to not do because for multiple reasons. There's so much junk now that's in the meat, and unless you're buying from a trusted source, it becomes really difficult to know, how your meat was raised and what was put in it. And then when you're completely dependent upon that system, that means that they have control of you. And so for us, we're doing our best to become self-sufficient when it comes to our meat. And I want to encourage a lot of you to get to that. Also, I want to encourage you to watch another guy's video. I recommend him all the time, Ice Age Farmer. He's done a video recently, actually a couple of videos recently, on this very topic, and he's gone into much greater detail on the legal side of it and what governments all over the world are trying to do to make it difficult. Even here in the United States, several states have proposing legislation within the states to register animals, to make it very difficult for small producers to produce their own meat, because they want to microchip and they want to register your farm and register every animal. You have to produce permits to transfer your ownership to another person or even to take it off your property. There is a lot of a large movement right now all across the globe to make it very difficult and near impossible for you and I to produce our own meat for our own consumption. Of course, they spin it that it's dangerous. They spread disease. They spread all these viruses. They do so much damage to the environment. The cow farts are killing the ozone layer and all this kind of stuff. This is, going on and on and on, and it's becoming a bigger issue. And this is part of this new world order. This is part of this great reset. This is part of Agenda 21 and Agenda 30. It's been going on for a long time. Finally, though, the technology is starting to catch up to where they can say, well, we've been talking about eating, lab-created meats for a long time, but now we're at a place that we can easily produce them. So now there's no reason for you to be raising your own food and for you to be purchasing meat. We'll just make it in a lab, and then that's good enough. And when they do that, number one, you don't know what you're getting in your body. You don't know what they're stuffing you full of, the chemicals and the things that aren't natural for us to eat. But then also, it takes away our freedom, because the more we become dependent upon this system, regardless of what system that is, if it's a system that's out of our control, it makes us more slaves to it. The only way that we can truly have freedom, and we talk about this all the time, we want to be free, we are free, liberty, and all this kind of stuff. The only way to really have it is to take control of our lives and to control as many aspects of our lives as possible. And one of the ways you can do that is raising your own food, whether it's putting a plant in the ground or having sheep or chickens or goats or cows or whatever it is that you want to produce. That is a way that you can produce your own food and to establish an even more independent lifestyle for you and your family. So I want to encourage you to do that and to strongly look into it. It doesn't take as much property as you think. These little guys out here, they really don't need that much land. You can fit usually 10 or more on one little acre of land. I mean, these guys have more land than they actually have to have. And chickens take even less. I mean, you can raise those in your backyard, and a lot of cities now allow it. So definitely look into it, become knowledgeable, read some books, get on websites that allow it, websites that talk about it, and try to figure out as best as you can how to become more independent with your food. All right, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.